For the process actually in rehearsals was, I was creating music. I'd had some music which I'd already written previously for another show, which Joe used for some of the rehearsals. Actually for scenes, the music was more written during the editing process than during the rehearsals. Little bits and pieces, sounds, more soundscapes rather than music.
I asked them to bring in the objects that they would take from their home if they had a fire, and we did some movement improvisations around those. And I asked them to map all of the places that they had lived in their lives, and I got them to draw a map of this. And we used this map for them to develop solos, and this was the first place that the dancers' stories started to come through. And I asked each member of the cast to make 3 or 4 movement gestures that represented a ritual that they did that made them really feel at home. Whether it was having a bath, lighting candles and having a bath, or whether it was a religious ritual, or for some of them it was cooking. And we took those movement gestures and linked them together so they had a gestural phrase. And I had thought very early on that this might be the opening shot of the film, and I'd had an idea about a long line of hands, of people doing these very, very intimate gestures that were very personal for them, that talked about their home life. And so we worked for a long time to find these gestures and then to select the poignant ones and to refine them. And in the end, it was the opening of the film.
What about my little hobby horse about safety?
This is our staging area. This is where we can build stuff. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do a bunch of exterior sort of static shots. Maybe okay.
I'm not sure we can see it from everyone. Hardest 2 sequences are coming on the first day. Yeah, we all know that gestures and comfortable and uncomfortable are the ones that are the most difficult to really get. And all of the stuff that's going around you is going on to make this dance that you've made look good, and it belongs to you now. It doesn't belong to me anymore. I just hope that you have a really great week. I hope that it's a really inspiring experience. And I'll see you for breakfast at 8:30 tomorrow.
My enjoyment of dance is that I get to go up on the stage and I get to walk around the performers and I get to kind of be involved and I get to look at them from different angles and I get to duck down and I get to go up above and I get to spin around them and I get to join in the dance.
The fact that we were shooting it on film, for example, as opposed to video, made the stakes a lot higher. It makes the shooting process slightly more complicated.
I mean, one of the main differences between film and video, one of the obvious differences, if you like, is that when you film and video, you can see what you get right away. You can plug it into television, you can play it back 2 minutes later, and you can see exactly what you've got, so you know if it worked or not.
Roll camera. 1 take 1. Roll sound. Rolling. 1 take 1. Okay.
5, 6.
So you don't know if you've got what you think you've got until much later. And especially on something like this, which is low budget, and this is common to most low budget films, is you don't process it at the end of each day. So nobody knows what we've got until the film's finished, which is quite a scary prospect, really. To film for all that time with all these people putting in all that work, you know, very long days and very cold weather, and nobody has yet seen any of it to know if it works or not. And that's quite terrifying for me, really, because that piece of film, which is still to be developed, is my responsibility. That's the thing that I'm there for, is to make sure that that piece of film has a good image on it. And everybody kind of pretends it's not going on. As we go along, we all work away and go, yep, it's going well, great, fantastic. That was a very good day's work and we've got some good stuff. But we don't actually know that until after the fact. And that is scary.
Also, because we were working in a collaborative way, so as the director, any decision I made, I also had to run through Joe, the choreographer, and vice versa. And sometimes we had different ideas and sometimes we didn't agree on things, so sometimes we just had to make a decision at the end of the day. And that probably rubbed off on other people and made their jobs harder as well.
Each piece will break it into different shots which do work. We don't film the whole piece from beginning to end, we'll just take a bit in the middle. It works great from this angle. There may be a little moment in between the relationship of the two people where it's nice to just have the camera in this, concentrating on this little space between them. And that only works for just a little moment.
Laura Ann had told me a lot about the rules in her house and who set them and how they shifted and how she didn't always want to obey them. And Laura Ann was a dancer who had been a student of mine for 3 years, and I knew she really needed a challenge. We really needed to push her, and Vic was a really exceptional dancer, and the two of them got on, and I thought I'd really like to make them a duet. I worked with Robert Wells, the composer, the day that I started working with them, and I wanted to set myself and them rhythmical challenges. So we were working on ridiculous counts. We had phrases that were 5s and then 6s and then 8s, and then I don't even remember how we layered them. And then their arms were doing one set of counts and their legs were doing a different set of counts. And it was difficult for Vic and really difficult for Laura Ann, and something that really pushed her, and really difficult for me. I mean, I couldn't dance the movement sequence, and it took us a month probably to make the phrase. And we had this whole movement phrase, and then we got to Anton's house, and we had been looking for a location for so long for this section of the piece, and in the end we had decided it would work best in a house, in a domestic context. And we got to Anton's house, and with all of the equipment and with the shots that we could set up, they couldn't really move their feet. And so they had spent really a month wrestling with all of this leg movement that we then had to cut. And we went back to the arm movement, and that was a really difficult moment for me, because it was very difficult for me to let that movement go.